Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. Nigeria's land borders, which have been shut since August 2019 to check smuggling of goods and arms into the country now, will soon be reopened for normal business activities. Recall that the federal government had insisted on keeping the borders closed until the final report of a committee set up on the matter was considered. Now, according to the Minister of Finance, that committee has carried out its assessment and has recommended a reopening of the borders. The full report is expected to be submitted to the President in the coming days, who will then make the official pronouncement. Now, that is according to the Minister of Finance. But farmers in the country have a contrary opinion. The farmers are of the opinion that opening the borders now will lead to an increase in the price of food items, and this will amount to a reversal of the gains earlier made by the country. Well, but these borders have actually been shut for a very long time, and traders have been complaining seriously that the continued closure of the border is seriously affecting their business. Let's get the opinion of an economist on this now. Johnson Chukwu is an investment expert and the CEO of Cowrie Asset Management Limited. He joins us from Lagos. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Is this a case of another man's meat being another man's poison?
Well, what I would say is that there is no economic policy that will not have some segments of the society that will be adversely affected. Some policies will have the majority of people positively affected. Some may have a few people that will be negatively affected. There's no policy that somebody will not have, that you will not have somebody who will be negatively affected as to complain. But the question you have to ask yourself at that point in time is that what would be the benefit or the negative impact of this policy on the Nigerian economy? And if you look at the closure of the land borders, I think from day one, some of us have made it clear that if we wanted to close the land border, it had to be a very temporary measure. You really can't afford to close your borders for more than a year. In fact, ideally, it should be a matter of days if there was going to be maybe a mob of action by the security agencies to arrest those who were smuggling arms. But otherwise, the border closure has had, as far as I'm concerned, negative impact on the economy. We've seen from the point the border was closed, we saw that the inflation rate had begun to trend northwards. Today, we're dealing with an inflation rate of 14.23%. And of that inflation rate of 14.23%, if food inflation is about 17.38%, up from 16.66% the previous month. So, and this could be partly attributed to the border closure. Again, several business operators either bring in their goods from the land borders or export their goods through the land borders, to the extent that the federal government had to grant special concession to the likes of the Dangote Cement, Bua Cement. I think they said another company to be able to open the borders to them. So that means if the borders could be open to Dangote Cement and Bua Cement, it then means that there are several other Nigerian businesses, small-scale operators, who do not have the political leverage that are suffering as a result of this border closure.
And the truth is that, look, the farmers may have benefited enormously from the closure of the border, but the truth is that even in terms of food self-sufficiency, we're still not there yet. So would it make sense now to continue to close the border if, for instance, in the case of rice, we've still not achieved self-sufficiency in rice?
You know, we have to take it from two perspectives. In the first place, when you talk of issue of self-sufficiency, the border closure, you don't lock down your border to products you're not producing enough to meet your local consumer consumption. That's one factor. Secondly, when you try to ban products that are in high demand, you end up pushing them to the parallel market or the black market, and you still find those things in the market. If you go to the Nigerian market, you will still find foreign rice. People are still, somebody still served me foreign rice yesterday. So clearly, the rice is coming in despite the closure of the border. It's just that they are coming at a higher cost because those people are now paying toll fees to smugglers and maybe some government-regulated enforcement agencies who are now made to turn the blind eyes to that. The other factor we have to consider is that when you talk of border closures, you must make sure the key thing to do is to strengthen your security agencies part of the reasons that were given for the closure, but could be attributed to failure of the Nigerian customs to discharge their duties. Ideally, when you say arms and goods were being smuggled, indeed, those borders are manned. Where were the security agencies that were manning them when the goods came in? We need to look at the strength and the capabilities of our customs and excise operators. We need to look at the adoption of technology, modern technology, to police our borders and ensure that goods that should legitimately come in, and then we charge the appropriate duties on them. That will further enrich the economy than what we have today, where the duty that should have been paid to the government are now going to private pockets of those who are illegally manning the borders or who are pocketing the revenues of the government in their private pockets.
Now, I have to ask you this. Now that the borders are going to be reopened in the coming days or probably weeks, what do we need to do as a country to protect our farmers, for instance, who are complaining about, who are expressing fears now over the reopening of the border?
Well, what I would say, DEJI, is that in the first place, our priority should be to be a low-cost producer. If you produce efficiently, you are not going to bother yourself with competition from similar goods produced from outside your country. It's because our cost of production is high, and in the case of farming, our level of productivity, the yield from our farm produce and our farming activities is below that of the yield of most countries. And that makes per unit cost of our goods, our food items more expensive. So we need to address that. Once we address that, we won't be bothered about what is coming into Benin Republic or coming to Cotonou. A simple reason is this: if I can produce rice at a cost that is lower than the cost, or even at the same cost as is produced in Thailand, the cost of transportation, shipping the rice from Thailand to this place, insurance and what have you, will make it impossible for anybody to bring in rice from Thailand to compete with mine. But when I am producing rice at a very exorbitant cost, then the imported rice will still land in my territory at costs that are below my cost of production. And that's the problem we have. That's the main challenge the farmers have. So what we need to do is, how do we upscale their level of productivity? How do we upscale their level of knowledge, adoption of technology? How do we improve the seedlings and the yield of those seedlings so that the level of yield per hectare of cultivated land in Nigeria is equivalent at the minimum with what obtains elsewhere?
And the truth is that it just wouldn't make sense at all to continue to close the border when Nigeria has actually ratified the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. It's basically antithetical to close the border while you are signed up to a free trade deal initiative.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why it's compelling for us to open the borders. I've argued repeatedly that what we need to do is take measures to position our economy as a destination for foreign direct investment, that those will be coming to Africa to invest as a result of this African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which we have ratified. The reality is that we have the biggest market in Africa in terms of size, though in terms of consumer power, we are behind some countries like South Africa and maybe Egypt. But in terms of head count, we are bigger than any other country in Africa. So if we, as a country, build the supporting structures as to support production, local production of goods and services, we're going to have Nigeria as a preferred destination for those who are coming into Africa. And if that's the case, we should not even contemplate closing our borders, because in the first place, like you said, it's contrary to the spirit and of the agreement. It's contrary to the terms of the agreement, African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and the purpose of government, the primary purpose of government at this time should be to build an economy that will be a destination for production so that we can compete elsewhere. So goods will be produced here, satisfy Nigerian local demand, and be shipped to other African countries.
Well, let's just wait and hope that the borders are reopened soon. And the truth is that there's no way we can man the entire borders of this country. So technology, just as you have said, is the key to solving the border problem. Thank you very much, Mr. Chukwu, for joining us on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get the perspective of a Nigerian farmer now who thinks the borders should remain closed. On DEJI360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent.
Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that band.
DEJI360, providing clarity to issues.